There we go. I am the host. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Canadians with Disabilities and their Allies. Brent has hit a bit of a snafu today, so he had an appointment. He's a bit late, and apparently he broke his phone. So I am the host, and I'm also the producer. I'm doing both jobs today. Hopefully Brent will be with us in about 15 minutes or so, but until then, we're just running by the seat of our pants.
Yeah. Yeah, we got lots to talk about till Brent gets here.
So I should see, I'm a terrible host because I haven't even introduced you yet, Cheryl. So I have Cheryl Hardcastle with me. She's a former MP for Ontario, and you've been on the show lots before. You're a really good ally, and this is episode number 41, we should say. So what are we going to get into today, Cheryl?
Yeah. Well, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks a lot for having me back again, Neil. And I really hope everything works out for Brent. It sounds like he's having a rough day, but we'll make it better for him when he comes in. We'll make him feel welcome. And we've got lots we can talk about. I know you already mentioned I'm a former member of federal parliament. I was in the NDP caucus and the critic for people living with disabilities at a really important time when we passed the Accessible Canada Act. So I did a lot of research. Obviously, the testimony from our committee work, the consultations that we had from the subject matter experts and the disability community. It was really, it was just really affirming to know that we have so many people that get it, you know, and that's what helped me when I saw that the legislation that we had for the Accessible Canada Act needed to be strengthened, and proposed 93 amendments. I think 6 of them were taken up because there were amendments that were made by other parties as well. So yeah, only about 6. But we do know that that needs to be strengthened. And there's ways that we can do that in governance throughout the country. At every level of government, there's work that needs to be done for that advocacy for people with disabilities. I go back to, one day you'll have to try and find that the cartoon that I really like, that really speaks to, if you're an ally, if you're just learning about disability issues and how you can be an effective ally in that public space, and being an advocate and speaking out, to understand that accessibility benefits everybody, right? The cartoon I'm talking about, let me describe it.
One with the ramp, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the ramp and the guy,
stairs,
there's a snowfall at a school, and there's a ramp and there's snow on the ramp, and there's a child in a wheelchair, and the person shoveling the steps at the school or the institution, maybe it's a library, I think it's a school, says, just wait till I'm done shoveling the steps and then I'll shovel the ramp for you. And the little boy says, well, if you shovel the ramp first, we can all get in.
That's right. Yeah.
Hello. That's one to me, like, that's the issue to me, that kind of accessibility. And in a time right now, if you're someone who follows current events and news, and sometimes the mainstream media will pick up a report that's been done. There's a new report that was reported on. It was specifically talking about Ontario, but it's a scholarly approach, right, to this issue of the link between mental health and food insecurity. Yeah,
Yeah,
we
well,
know this, don't we? We know, yeah,
yeah.
there's a link between your mental health and your anxiety levels and food insecurity.
Well, it's
So we
interesting.
solve that.
And it's interesting you're saying, we're using the word allies, and I got a comment on my YouTube channel just a few days ago, and somebody left a comment saying we have no allies.
Yeah.
The disability community has no allies, and I understand that sentiment.
Yeah.
I do. I get it, because people are frustrated and they don't see anybody helping.
No, they don't.
So I get it, but I said, there are allies out there, and we can mention a few, like Mike Maurice and
Yeah.
and people like that.
I think of allies as, yes. So you can only think of allies as somebody who's powerful and influential. Eventually, each individual votes. We make these issues matter in our community by saying, this bothers me, this matters to me. As an ally, I want you to address this, whether it's your municipal government, your federal government, or your provincial government. And you make them issues, especially during a campaign period when you can vote. And then at other times, what are you doing? What's your course of action on this? Allies can do that. A lot of times, allies as individuals, okay, individual people care, it matters to them, but they're just as helpless as someone that is actually experiencing the problem. They're helpless to do anything about it themselves. But when they realize, if we all collaborate, we become this collective, we become this movement that advocates for that social justice, is really what we're looking at, just like we do for so many other things. You include that. That's what we want from our allies. We have a lot of allies when it comes to individuals who are working different walks of life. They have children with special challenges. There are organizations now, like I'm looking at specifically in Ontario where I am. You have all of these parents with kids living with disabilities, and their school boards are, schools are supposed to be fully accessible, but they're not adequately funded. Mind you, I know that's a provincial funding issue, but that doesn't matter to people when there's a problem, right? They want to see their kids, whether they have autism, whether they have a specially equipped wheelchair that needs to get onto a school bus, let alone go through a hallway or aisles in a classroom setting. There's all kinds of things that we need to be able to do together. And then you have families, you have people who are driving someone to their appointment or helping them do the runaround to fill out forms for, as we know, there's so much accountability for people when they're applying for some kind of a benefit and have a disability. The paperwork is so frustrating, isn't it? To go to a doctor and get forms filled and be charged for, and the hours that it takes to amass all of this information, it's really hard. And I wish that we did have a better approach at the government level, where you have these system navigators that just help you get through this more effectively,
Well, and that's another interesting point too, because I mean, growing up with a disability, like I was born with my disability, as most people are, I would say.
Yeah.
And the thing about having a disability, or growing up with one, is there really is nobody to help you much. I mean, you're kind of, you just kind of have to figure things out for yourself. And, I learned from a very early age, just start turning over stones myself and try to find
Yeah.
things for myself.
Yeah.
And there was nobody to show me, hey, there's this agency out here that can help you with your schooling or whatever it is, or there's this person over here that can help you. I mean, I was having to find all that stuff for myself. There was no like government agency that was helping me. It was just like trial and error and just research myself, and my parents helping me too.
Yeah.
But yeah, it would be nice if there was more coordination. And I mean, we have a federal ministry of disabilities, but I would love to see on a provincial level for all provinces. I would love to see a ministry of disability for all provinces, and really put that at the forefront of like, let's
as
make
a
it easier for
standalone.
people.
As a
standalone.
standalone. Right now, we do see it, don't we, that there's several things, the minister of this, and persons with disabilities.
Yeah, it's just like a tackle.
It's like there's so much to the portfolio. So what can they really do if they're spread so thin? Which goes back to individual allies, whether you're an ally, you're a parent like your parents, like yourself. When you're in survival mode on an individual level for your life, it's very hard to advocate, like you burn out. It's very hard to collectively get momentum and advocate, because you're up against a whole system and you get overwhelmed. It doesn't make for cohesiveness in a really organized movement, because everybody's just like doing what they can do to survive. It's so taxing. It takes so much out of you to be an advocate for yourself and for your family member, that it's very, very hard. That's what we're up against. So we need more people who become enlightened on the matter, and who care that we have social equity in all aspects of our society, and what can we do to help elevate people living with disabilities? What can we do to speak up about this system? And the system that we have that's inadequate, they need some specifics. There are people who knows what walk of life they come from and what area of expertise. There are people who probably have like, 2 or 3 things they could do right now to help people with disabilities, right? Like that are what we call for policy, like the low-hanging fruit. Well, I know a lot of it's at every level of government. And you know what? Once you learn about the issues, you start to understand it comes more naturally to you. Okay, that's provincial. Okay, that's federal. Federal and provincial are very, very closely matched right now in terms of how they impact negatively on people living with disabilities. Because I know I refer to Ontario a lot because that's where I reside, but I'm well aware that every province has something similar. Maybe this might be a little better and that's worse. Okay. So the issue of clawbacks, when you have the Canada Disability Pension, that payment, let's say of $900, and you get the Ontario Disability Support Plan, the ODSP, it's clawed back.
Yeah. And my
I'm not sure how it works in BC. Every province, it works a similar way. Why, why is that being clawed back? And why are we waiting until the Canada disability benefits are addressed? Why aren't we like, what can we do right now to at least alleviate this? If eliminating it's impossible, these clawbacks, can you reduce that down to, I don't know what percentage it would be. I should have my calculator handy, but I know it deviates a little bit of a percentage point, but every province uses a poverty measure, a low income measure, market basket measure. They all call it something different in each province. So if you're a person living with a disability that is on a provincial support payment, whatever it's called, you're getting clawbacks from anything federal. You're getting clawbacks if you are employed and earn more than $1,000. It's like 75% clawed back in Ontario. So I know in every province we have the same things. Why are we not looking at least reducing that burden? It's crazy. You're living 40 in our poverty measures. Everybody in general, I'm rounding, I'm averaging. It's like 40% below that poverty line that we've established for government policy purposes. You've identified a mechanism that you use to decide what the poverty line is. And people living with disabilities getting these payments are living 40% below that. Crazy.
There's a saying, the inspiration porn, right? And like you said earlier, I mean, people with disabilities are just trying to get by. That's it. And somebody can make the comment of like, it's so inspirational that you can get by on $1,000 a month or something like that. And it's like, well, it's not inspirational. Like, we're just trying to get by. How about you give us more money? I'm not trying to be an inspiration, and none of us with disabilities
we're not
trying to be an inspiration. We're just trying to get by and live.
And and the fact, even if you're well-meaning and you offer to someone that they're an inspiration to you, well, that's nice for you, for you personally, for your peace of mind or whatever it is you're going through in your life. And that's no excuse to not be demanding better. Like, it's inexcusable. And the problem is, and we can say these things in a conversation like this that's very thought-provoking around the issues that people living with disabilities are facing, but it's very hard in public. Let's say you're at some event or there's some announcement and someone thanks, like for instance, the minister of the day thanking the disability community for their hard work and their advocacy to get the Canada, C-22, the Canada Disability Benefit passed, and all of these, MPs that voted for it in the House. Yeah, that feels good and that's wonderful. And there was so much congratulatory coverage, though it makes us, like, those of us that are critical of are grumpy, like me.
Yeah.
What do you mean? Like 18 more months? You didn't do any. There was no work that was done from when it was first tabled, then call an unnecessary federal election, come back, table it again in what was the date in 2021? Like, all this time passed, it's the exact same thing. Where's the work that's being done behind the scenes? It's not being done.
And I totally
waiting for deadlines.
And I totally get people's frustration with it, but I didn't know if you wanted to talk about, as we said earlier, there are true advocates out there. There are true allies out there. Mike Maurice and Benita Zerillo, they have got 2 bills going, talking about a temporary measure, like a DERB. And so maybe we can talk about that.
Yeah, that's a good point, because we always want to feel like, we're being real here in this space, but you want to give people some, a call to action or some kind of hope, right? Help them to at least see that some things are being done to lay these markers down, to get the word out. And one important thing that's being done are these e-petitions. So it's a process that we have now in the House of Commons, and I'm so glad that Mike Maurice and Benita Zerillo, as MPs, have taken taken full advantage of these resources to get names, get people on petitions. And they're both essentially about this idea that we have to wait. Like, people are hurting right now, this deep impact poverty right now, this Canada Disability Benefit. You have people who are not going to be able to hang on till that comes to fruition. And we're being told at one point, the minister, the former minister, we'll talk about that too. Remember that too, okay, Neil?
Yeah.
But we'll talk about that too. That if that's coming in 2 years, 18 to 24 months, what are we doing right now? Right now, there is need, and the government has the ability to mitigate, relieve that stress, right? Hi, Brent. We see that
Brent
you're here.
Brent is coming on. I'm just gonna repin everybody. Just give me 1 second. I'm gonna remove a couple pins, and then
oh, what a day!
Ah.
What a day! Oh, I was in the mall, and we had to do some shopping, and so I went in the mall. I had some bags in my hands. I put it on the washroom counter in the men's washroom, and I put my phone on the counter. Nobody else is in there, so I'm thinking, okay, it's good. So I went to the washroom anyway, whatever, right? And so anyway, and nobody was there. I came back, and my phone was still there, and I grabbed the bags, and of course I forgot my phone. I went out the washroom, and there was some other people coming and going, and I went back in there, and guess what? No phone.
Oh man!
So somebody hijacked my phone, Cheryl and Neil.
Oh wow!
And so I went to the service provider, and they said, "Well," I said, "Oh my God, I've got a podcast to do, and I gotta be on in like 1 hour here." Okay, well, can I deal with some other customers first? Fine. I'm like, when I went back to the washroom, looking, no phone, no cameras in there, so they can't do anything about it. So he says, "We'll come back later today. I'm open until 6 o'clock tonight, and we'll come back and we'll see what we can do for you."
Oh, I hope it works out.
Oh yeah. Anyways, so I got I still have my other device. I can use in Wi-Fi, but I mean, still,
No, just more anxiety, eh?
Yeah, so
that sucks.
I messaged Neil right away, and what's his Twitter handle? I said, "Well, you're following." So she sent a message out, and then she put on there, and I wasn't expecting. She goes, Brent broke his phone. I'm like, no.
It's very hard to do both jobs, Brent. I don't like to do the hosting thing, and then I'm trying to do both at the same time. It's like, yes. Producer and host, you can't do both.
You're irreplaceable, Brent.
Yeah. Well, hello, Cheryl, and hi. Welcome to Canadians with Disabilities and Their Allies.
Yeah. Well, we got right into it. Brent, we started talking about allyship. We talked about the exhaustion of your own individual advocate. So it's very hard to organize a movement and to have a follow through on movements. And we really need to educate individual people from all walks of life that are interested in the issue, that want to learn more and want to demand more from all levels of government when they see what the systemic issues that people living in poverty are up against when they're on a disability benefit of some sort in every province. It's like 40% below that poverty line, that low income measure. And every province has a way that they calculate it. And if you're interested in that low income measure, you can go and find out how Alberta calculates theirs, how New Brunswick calculates theirs, how Quebec and Ontario. But no matter how it's calculated, people living with disabilities are living in poverty, deep impact poverty. They're way below the poverty line. And we were talking about how it's really frustrating, your mental game right now, after the hope and the celebration of the passing of the Canada Disability Benefit, to know that is not going to come to fruition for at least, I say 2 years. If they're saying 18 months, it'll be 24 months. If they're saying a year and a half, it'll be 2 years, because they haven't even started getting to brass tacks in that regulatory stuff that the legislate, oh, we'll leave that to regulation. We'll leave that to regulation. There's so much that was left to regulation that now you just to hurt, do you remember that?
Oh,
That was
yeah.
argument, hurry up and pass it. We need it, so hurry up and pass it. Okay, so you've passed this basically empty shell.
Yeah.
Yes, some improvements were made. Yay to the Senate.
Yeah,
No,
for sure.
yay to the Senate for really, really delving into it and taking that bold action. Yes, it was disconcerting that the Minister of People with Disabilities of the day did not accept one of the amendments with regards to private insurance being able to benefit because of their own stipulations and clawbacks for their payments. It just means that the for-profit sector will benefit when there's a Canada disability benefit, because they will claw back if you're already, oh, you're getting this money from the federal government now, so we don't have to give it to you. Just like right now, when we talk about clawbacks, if you're getting, when you're getting your provincial payment, if you get a Canada disability pension payment, that's clawed back.
I call those
The amount is
pink
clawed back.
unicorns.
Yeah.
I call those pink unicorns.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just to catch you up then, just before you came on, because we can go into more of that kind of stuff, but we did talk about MPs in the House of Commons, Mike Maurice from the Green Party, Benita Zarillo from the NDP caucus. They both have petitions right now. The wording is a little bit different on each one. Their closing dates are each a little bit different, but they're both petitions that are basically bursting this bubble, this happy bubble. Yay, we celebrate the Canada Disability Benefit. So they took their minute and they said, yeah, good, that's good. But guess what? If you're waiting this long, people do not have that long to wait. You need interim measure. You need something right now. The Canada Disability Benefit has already been delayed. It's going to keep being delayed. What do people do right now? You have the ability for an emergency payment, an interim payment, whatever you want to call it. You have the ability to do that right now. You have the ability to talk to those provinces right now and say, do not claw back these payments. We'll negotiate with you on how the Canada Disability Benefit goes, but there's all kinds of things that the federal government can be doing. And we need all voices, all Canadians' voices to say, yeah, we agree with this. Get on that. And that's
as I was saying too, it's like we're not all trying just to be inspirations, right? We're just trying to get by and trying to live.
Yeah. Being an inspiration doesn't dismiss our issue.
Yeah.
I mean, disability never gets put on hold. I mean, it's
yes, exactly.
I mean, there's always more expenses that come up, unexpected expenses, and as I know,
like when you lose your phone.
Gets hijacked.
Wow. And that's all you need.
I mean, and it's like our person's coffee maker breaks, or their toaster breaks, or they need more clothes. I mean, the list goes on and on. Maybe they need a new mobility device for their disability, or whatever it may be. All these expenses are way above, and with them delay tactics, I mean, from feds, it's not helping the situation. And you're right. I mean, it could take up to 2 years, or I mean, maybe even longer.
Yeah.
We have
right now, people cannot buy groceries. They can't adequately provide that for their special needs that they have. I mean, if you have a special diet, I don't know what people do when they have certain food allergies and they can't just eat. Like if you're celiac, or if you have a gluten intolerance and you can't eat cheap spaghetti,
Yeah.
What, it's crazy what
Well,
people
like,
are
well,
expected
it's
to do.
like Sonia, like she's diabetic, so she has to really be careful of what
Yeah,
she eats.
starches,
And
yeah.
if she does, then her glucose numbers, they go right through the roof. And we had Sonia's mom visit with us for 5 days, which was nice. I mean, she did all the cooking, she did all the dishes. Yay! I didn't have to do dishes. I didn't have to do dishes. She was, you're having a break. I go, nice. But you know what I mean? But at the same time, she was watching what she was making because Sonia's numbers
Yeah.
were down. No, you shouldn't be eating this. And why do you have this? Well, because that's all I can afford. As Sonia said, that's all I can afford. So I don't want
Yeah.
to be buying certain things, but because
Some
of the
of the
budget,
very, some of the very poignant testimony, I don't know if you guys remember during C-22, I think it was when it was still in the House of Commons,
Mhm.
before it went to the Senate, okay? And you can still go, and I can get into, you go to Our Commons, so OurCommons.ca. So start with that, go to ourcommons.ca. Then you look for committees. In the search, you can search for disability, or you can search C-22, and there's recorded video of the testimonies. But
Oh, wow.
one of the women that was doing a testimony, I can't remember what organization she was representing, but she had very poignant testimony where she talked about being sent to a nutritionist at the hospital who told her you need a cup of broccoli and a cup of and I'm going to stop you right there. I'm on a disability pension. I cannot afford to eat what you're telling me. I can't afford it. So food insecurity is a huge, huge issue, and that deep poverty is a huge issue. So when we talk about a disability emergency response benefit, and it's worded that way, DERB, you hear people saying DERB. I want more people that are watching this to know that's the acronym. Mm-hmm. When you're at events in the summer and you meet your MP and you shake hands with them or whatever, tell them, I hope you're pushing for DERB.
We've got a couple
What's
comments.
DERB? You tell, like, that's what an ally means. You don't have to be a big, powerful influencer. You can live across the road from anybody with a different ability than you and feel like, you know what, I'm fortunate that I don't have to worry about this right now, but can happen to you
instantly,
any day.
Yep.
Any day. Some people are born, like Neil was saying, that's really honed his skills in being able to navigate this system that we have that's so difficult when you're whether you're born with your disability or if you acquire it later. Like light bulbs go off in your head, and there's only so much that you as an individual can do. It takes a collective movement, right? Mm-hmm. So that's what these petitions are for. So,
and I just wanted to stop you there, Cheryl, just for a moment, because we got a comment from Birdie a while back, and she just wanted to make a comment that the E petition E4519, it closes on October 15th, and the
that's what I was gonna say.
4519 closes on October 15th, and the 4514 closes on September 10th.
That's right.
Ooh, okay.
And it's good to sign both of them. They each have different wording in the whereas, talking about, you know, homelessness, talking about delays in the system. They each highlight certain different things, but it boils down to, comes back to that same important point. You need an interim measure right now. You cannot wait. This disability benefit, you can't just pat yourselves on the back, a job well done. Get back there and get a disability benefit. And how you do that, so if you go to ourcommons.ca, at the very top, you'll see, I think it says participate. And if you hit, there's a drop down menu and it will show you petitions. And you can type in E-4514, or you type in DERB. I think it will show, if you type in capitals, the acronym DERB. And you can sign both those petitions. There's a process that you have to follow. You give them your email address to confirm who you are. And there's also a box you can check to stay updated, like when it's tabled in the House of Commons, and that you'll see how the status of it goes. But right now, I don't know, I probably shouldn't go online to see, but you can see the tally, the number of signatures each of them have. They're still in the, neither of them are over 10,000. And we need to get the word out for that. That's something that every single person can do. And you can text your family and friends and say, sign this petition, please. And that's one way we get the word out, because then what happens, just speaking as someone who was formerly there in the House of Commons, they stand up and table these petitions. And when you table it, you can make a brief statement. You know, there's a time limit and the speaker will control that. But you can say, you know, people with disabilities need help right away. Like, and you're making that statement that goes on the record on the Hansard, it's called, in the House of Commons. And I think petitions are really effective in helping us mainstream these ideas, so that because that's part of what we want when policy and legislation are developed, no matter what area it is. You don't want that policymaker, that governing body, that government, that politician who wants to be reelected. You don't want it to be controversial. You want it to be a safe bet. You want it to not be obscure. You want it to be celebrated. And this is how we do that, by mainstreaming that idea, by mainstreaming that narrative. Where is DERB? Why don't we have it yet? Yes, we congratulated you that the Canada Disability Benefit was passed in the House of Commons. Here, here. It was passed in the Senate. Here, here. Now you're working on the regulations. What are you doing in the meantime? Because the wait time is unacceptable for people with disabilities, right?
Yeah, what I find really,
ourcommons.ca. Sorry to cut you off.
yeah,
Yeah, I was going to say,
find
Brent,
it-
sorry again. I was just going to say that I'll add that link, the Our Commons link in the description.
Ourcommons.ca. Yeah.
I'll add
I
that.
mean, I don't know. Like, take a few minutes and like, it's very interesting. You can go, you can see former parliaments. I mean, when people are talking about housing now and affordable housing, and talking about how in 1996, Finance Minister Paul Martin Jr. Eliminated the federal support for cooperative housing and the way that it was structured at the time. And there were so many people, so many experts of the day that weighed in and said, if you do that, here's what's going to happen over time. If you download that responsibility, this is what's going to happen in the next 10 years, 20 years, 30. Now we're at what, like almost 30 years. Yep. We're in crisis. We have an increase of homelessness. We have these problems, these issues that have caused crisis have been there for so long. Now they're at this breaking point. Like, what more needs to happen is, and it's the same when people talk about climate issues and how they impact low income. And, you know, when you have a heat wave and people don't have air conditioning in areas where they never needed it before, but you have these heat waves that don't last a day, they last a week. And it causes death, causes severe injury, causes severe illness. And like, what are we doing? People are at a breaking point, and we need everybody to become politically astute. I know so many people who are frustrated and at their breaking points that say to me, oh, I'm not political. Okay, that's your coping mechanism right now. You're not political, but guess what? Politics affects you. You may not be political, but it's affecting your life right now. So find a way to weigh in, and in a collective voice. That's what we need to have. We can't have people just feeling so overwhelmed that they stay away from it. Go collect yourself, find a way to, you know, get your blood pressure down, and then go to that website, go sign the petition.
Well, you know,
Yes, it's gestures right now. It's not gonna bring a basket full of food to your house tomorrow, or to your neighbor. Because I'm talking to allies too. We need so many people to just like say this is not acceptable.
you know what,
And a lot of times people suffer in silence. Sorry, Neil, I just want to get this
okay,
out.
that's fine. Yeah.
The homelessness issue is so hard and so heart-wrenching because it's highly visible in our communities. A lot of times people with disabilities are numbered in that, but a lot of times people are suffering in silence.
Yeah.
They're unknown. And people now are speaking up thanks to social media. Thanks to social media, people are going, you know what? Here, have a look at my, what is it called? It's not called rent. It's called housing, your housing support item. Like $552 or something in Ontario.
Yeah, ours is $500 now. Yeah, the shelter portion.
Oh, shelter. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what I lost that word for a minute.
Mhm.
Like just seeing the wording. Oh, so that's all you're allocated. So if you're in housing, which is a good deal, if you're renting, I think where I am now, like renting for $1,000 is a good deal. So you're
Very
taking
good deal.
somewhere else.
Fabulous.
If you get the $1,300 a month, you're taking from somewhere, you're taking from food, somewhere else, you're taking from another allowance. So you have shelter.
But then you got nothing else left.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, and people do that, and they suffer in silence. And now, like I said, thanks to social media, people are calling this out. This is how I'm living. Is this okay with you? And people are, no, this isn't okay with me. And there's some people that are still in denial. You must be making bad choices, right? You must be doing some. No, that's not the problem. The problem is systemic.
Yep.
Well,
Exactly.
one of the comments I wanted to make, Cheryl, though, is, you know, like I've said before, is like I grew up with my disability, and so did Brent and a lot of other people. But like I grew up thinking naively that you know, because I mean, I started working pretty, you know, like you know, I worked for a lot of years, and I know not everybody with a disability can do that, but I just, you know, always thought that, you know, I've only been on my social assistance for about 14 years now or so, right? So I haven't been on assistance, you know, you know, I've been working more than I've been on assistance, I'll just say. And so you know, I always thought, you know, of course the government looks after people that are vulnerable, you know. So when I was working with a disability and I would see somebody in a wheelchair or whatever, I'd be going, well, you know, the government's looking after people like that. If they can't work, that's fine. You know, that's what I thought, right? And that's a wrong assumption on my part. But I always this is somebody that's born with a disability, and I should have known better, maybe. But I assumed, here's the government, that they're going to look after people. And then, you know, 10 years ago, the government starts clawing back my survivor's pension. And it's like, and that woke me up. It's like, and until that happened, I didn't know that the government did stuff like that. It's like,
what?
You know?
I know.
So, you know, so you can, my point is you can go along through your whole life being a disabled and not even realize. It takes that aha moment of being woken up and stirred alive and going, you know what, the government takes stuff away from you, you know, like they claw back your survivor's pension. And I didn't know that until it happened to me. So
so it stands to reason when people.
Well, that's kind of like when they passed the C-22 into Royal Assent, when it got passed, Then all of a sudden, magically, just shortly after, it got extended to by 6 months, right? As we were talking about. Then all of a sudden, the Liberals did a cabinet shuffle, got the minister who was responsible for that portfolio completely out of there. And now there's a new one, and the new one's not even talking about the word disability at all. Not even one peep, apparently. Like,
well, that's a really good point too, Brent. Another opportunity for us right now. Let's turn that into an opportunity, right?
Yep, exactly.
Got a new minister, the Honorable Kamal Kara is the new minister. She's the Minister of Diversity and Inclusion and Persons with Disabilities.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody can write a letter and you can send it postage free. If you can't email it, you can, her email is, it's first name dot last name at parl, P-A-R-L, .gc.ca. I don't know if you want to put the link in, Neil. I'll spell it carefully. C-A-M-A-L. I'm sorry, not C-A-M-A-L. K-A-M-A-L dot K-H-E-R-A at P-A-R-L dot G-C dot C-A.
Okay.
Or let me say this too, or you can, the Honorable Kamal Kara, Parliament of Canada, Ottawa, Ontario, K1A0A6. K1A0A6. That's all you need. The Honorable Kamal Kara, or Kamal. I'm not sure how she pronounces it. My apologies to anybody who is like gritting their teeth right now because of my mispronunciation. I believe it's Kamal Kara. So isn't this a great time? She's the new minister. Write her a letter. Congratulations on your new post. I'm a person living with a disability. I'll be following your portfolio on persons living with disabilities. I hope you understand we're all living in deep impact poverty, and hope you'll roll out DERB as quickly as possible. Now is a good time to seize this moment, right? Congratulate her and tell her what you're expecting from her in a very positive way right now. One thing we can also do too is anybody that's following their, follow their current events, that cabinet shuffle has yet to be followed up with the Prime Minister's mandate letters.
Oh.
So I'll be anxious to see the mandate letter for Kamal Kara and see how this is worded.
Yes,
maybe she will be addressing an interim measure until the Canada Disability Benefit comes in. And if not, we got to turn up the heat. When they come back in September, and these petitions, Mike Maurice's petition will be ready to be tabled probably September, then October. Hey, I hope that they'll be able to get motions in the House, even if they fail. You get them on the record, lay these markers down.
You and I had a brief conversation off camera, Cheryl. Just before we went live, and we were talking about Carla Qualtrough and how probably there's some people out there that are happy that she's no longer the minister, but we have to also acknowledge that people in that position that are put in that post, they're a bit of a, what is that the right term to say, paper tiger? That she doesn't really have a lot of power necessarily, right? And there's a lot of people that are pulling the strings behind the scenes, and so anybody in that position, in large part, is kind of set up to fail, really, because they don't really have a lot of support. And
that's why we're here, right? Why is that?
Right.
Not just this government, okay?
Yeah. We just have
why is that? Why people with disabilities are not powerful and influential enough? Right? So we
get the scraps.
We need all Canadian citizens to be indignant about this.
So you mean anyone on Twitter who's following following Derb is the hashtag Derb, but you can do it all in capital letters, DERB. Sometimes you're going to see the word Derb it. We call it Derbit. That's just Derbit, instead of like do it, Derbit, or Derb is the word. There's 3 different hashtags that are being used. I prefer to use the word Derb because it's very straightforward. Everyone knows the word Derb because they remember the word Serb, right? We know how fast Serb got out there, right? Well, Derb can be done the same way. It can.
There's that old Devo song.
Yeah.
Whip it, so you can say, just Derb it good.
Derb it good.
That's right.
Yeah.
This is a good chance too. We can remind people, I know we've done this in different iterations of this podcast in the Twitter space, and that when we've talked about and this is for the benefit of new people, I guess, that don't already understand this or realize this. And like Neil said, you can have a disability and be aware of somebody else's issues with a disability if you're working or your disability is in a different universe, right? But you've got to capitalize your hashtags.
Oh, yes.
That's a very ableist approach we have now, where the idea of capitalizing the first letter of each word in a hashtag allows for assistive devices and readers to be able to make sense of these hashtags, because you know what it's like now, even on your phone, if someone's announcing a phone call from somebody, if you don't have the phone number improperly, it'll tell 1,900,000, like, instead of telling you the phone number. It's the same idea.
Yeah.
That if you capitalize each letter, it will read each word. So let's say, I don't know what, I'm trying to think of a hashtag.
Just Derb it.
Justice for people with disabilities. So you would capitalize justice, people with, right? Like you have to capitalize each letter, each first letter of the word. And that helps other people that have an accessibility issue and want to be able to participate as much as possible in social media.
It's a huge
barriers. You got barriers to participation. They're social, they're economic, they're physical, right? And we got to be able to be aware of all of them. So yeah, that's good. That's good that we've got that going on. Yeah, I think because of social media, there's been a new level of awareness. I believe people are seeing the reality because people are talking about it. They're not just suffering in silence anymore.
Oh, because now it's starting to affect their lives too. And in a lot of ways, people are now becoming
and they're like, if I can't afford groceries, how the hell can you afford groceries?
Well, yeah, and one of my neighbors got into an accident and is now disabled. I mean, yeah, it can happen to anybody at any time in their life. Like, knock on wood that they don't get a disability, but you will get a disability in one form or another.
Eventually,
Eventually, or more compounds. And sure, I always told when I was in college, oh, sure. So we did an assessment. Oh yeah, I just joke around with it. I said, oh, just tack that on to the list here. Sure, why not, right? What the heck? You know? But it's all part of life, right? You just go with the flow. Sonia could tell you stories. She's got diabetes, she's got a heart condition, and hey, Sonia,
yeah. When you were talking about the cabinet shuffle too, that also reminded me. So we noted, so it's the Minister of Diversity, Inclusion, and Persons with Disabilities. Whereas the previous minister, Carla Qualtrough, was Employment, Social Development, and Persons with Disabilities.
It was a hodgepodge.
This is a different group. And then now Randy Boissonnault is Minister of Employment, Workforce Development, and Official Languages. I don't know if they're going to be I don't know how the focus is going to be
categorized
among different, like, this is the Canada Disability Benefit is going to be rolled out with
Different
EI
minister.
and social, like, do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I think it's a different, that's why we have to wait for the mandate letters. I'm being really vague right now because we don't know. They were announced, but we don't know what all
Well,
of that.
that's the problem when you have ministries with schizophrenic names. It's like, employment and disability and
Employment and Social
economic
Development Canada, and it includes it used to include policy development for disability too. So now now what happens? Who's doing that?
I think people with disabilities are important enough to have their own ministry. Just call it the Ministry of Disabilities. That's it. That's it. And like I was saying earlier, every province should have their own Ministry of Disabilities too. And then so many things would be better, I think.
But rather than all these different names, like there's social, like poverty reduction or innovation or all these splashy names.
We're innovating poverty. That's that's about it. Yeah.
No, it sure does get frustrating. And how the heck do we stay energized to be advocates, right? How do we stay energized is the main thing I look at, like allies like this. This is what motivates me, knowing other people that are not just struggling, but are in the fight too. Like, we're in this fight together and we're not going to give up.
Exactly.
As an individual, fighting this fight is too overwhelming, right?
Yeah. But and we mobilize, right? We mobilize across our nation. And seeing homeless people, Cheryl, we have our ministry's office in Victoria, and there's tents everywhere, right near the sidewalk. You can't even get up there properly, and excuse me, around there. They have to deal with just regular people on AKA welfare, as I used to call it. I just call it income assistance. It's more dignified. I think they should have their own office, like Neil mentioned. I think they should have their own office. People with disabilities have their own office, and it used to be just temporary that way in certain provinces, but then they amalgamized it all into one. And the problem is, it's all about legislation. It's about their policies on how they treat the individual, the client. Do you have a warrant out for your arrest? Have you been incarcerated? Are you kidding me? And I brought that to a minister.
I'm glad we talked about that.
Yeah, and we brought that to a minister who recently I had on the podcast, and she agrees that it's legislation that needs to be modernized and changed. So I'm glad that it is being recognized, but it's like, okay, but who's going to do it? When is it going to get done?
Yeah.
And they're like, what, 4 years?
Exactly. Now, just with that cabinet shuffle too, I was thinking of this. I don't know if it's too boggling, but or maybe I'm going off on a tangent and there's nothing to it, but there's a new Ministry of Citizen Services. Terry Beach. And that's a standalone.
Is that immigration or what?
No, Citizen Services. I don't know. I don't have anything. There's no mandate letter yet. So is that online, like Citizen Services, like to update online portals, like how you apply for things, streamlining maybe this Canada Disability Benefit. Maybe they'll take some of the recommendations from that Senate report in 2018 and implement it. But there might be something there with that ministry. And when they have their mandate letters, Brent, like that might be, obviously to invite the new Minister for People with Disabilities, but maybe invite that new, it's a whole new ministry, Minister of Citizenship, Terry Beach. Maybe invite him, just talk about what exactly is that?
Yeah, I'm kind of really curious on that too. What are you like? What are they going to be doing in there?
So if it's services for all citizens, so is it about IT? Is it about technology and how we access services, how we access things. Like, I don't know. That's my thinking of what it would be.
Police.
Yeah, but I do hope that there are ways that we can keep
Integrate
getting
them,
the word
integrate
out.
them.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Yeah, that'd be interesting to hear the perspective from the minister on that, for sure.
yeah, yeah.
We've been on for about an hour, Brent. I didn't know if you wanted to do closing comments. Well, I know you haven't been on for an hour.
I haven't been.
But we've been.
But I may feel like I made up for some of the time lost there.
You sure did.
The tardiness, Brent. But yeah, it's always enjoyable. I mean, did you want to be on for maybe a few more minutes, or are you good with time, Neil? Or
Well, I do have to stay on schedule here,
Okay.
so I can do a couple more minutes if you want to
Okay.
go off on a
Sure.
tangent, talk about something, or if we didn't go somewhere that you wanted to go, but like no more than 5 after.
Yeah.
Yeah,
maybe
that's
we
what
can maybe
works.
start our closing statements, and I'll just kind of go off on a little tangent, and then we'll kind of just blend it over. I mean, first of all, I'll hand it over to you first, Cheryl, and then Neil, and then myself.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, well, it was a great discussion, and I really do hope people will take advantage of the ways that they can contact all the new ministers, actually. Anyone you think might be remotely able to help push the needle for advocating for people with disabilities, congratulate them. Tell them who you are and that you have great expectations that they'll be able to address the impact on people living with disabilities that inflation in our economy has, and all kinds of things, healthcare, whatever's on your mind. There is a way that you can congratulate that minister and tell them that you have, say in a positive way, that, I'm really looking forward to the work you're going to be doing. I hope you'll be able to make a difference for people like me who are living with a disability and can't get adequate care, can't get adequate shelter, are threatened with living on the street, food insecurity, whatever it is, And I know some people say, what's the use? We all go through moments like that. We go through times like, oh, what's the use?
Yeah.
But you got to find a way to keep believing it, and get somebody else too. Get one other person. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, it's totally. I totally echo that, Cheryl, on that, and it's don't stop believing what you can reach for. Reach for hope. The hope is there, but the sunshine is there, shining down.
Yeah.
And just believe that there's allies all around, that we're all working together, one way or another, and we're coming together to unite to accomplish what.
And we got it. Yep, and we're going to work together to drive home the point. We're done celebrating the passing of the Canada Disability Benefit. We know it's historic. You got a lot of work ahead. We have many cold and hungry days ahead of us. What are you doing in the moment? What are you doing right now?
Show us the money.
Show me the money. Yeah, exactly. Now over to you, Neil. Thanks, Cheryl.
I just wanted to
Thanks for having me, you guys.
Yeah, and I just wanted to apologize for butchering your hosting duties.
You did a fine.
It's hard to do two hats. I can only do one.
I think this was good. I think it worked out really good. It's we're a warm and human bunch. We're human.
Yeah.
You winged it, Neil. You did. I always say, just wing it. Just wing it.
Wing it.
Yeah. Don't from the script, Brent. But and so my closing comments. First of all, before I go off on a tangent, Cheryl, I want to thank you so much. For coming on once a month and
episode 41 today. Episode 41.
Yeah, I saw that. And, having you come on and following up once a month and just touching base as an ally and just giving people hope that and inspiration, knowing that allies come together across this beautiful nation.
Yeah.
And when I say a beautiful nation, we have a wealthy nation. We have a wealthy nation where money should be, kind of prioritized into the social safety nets. It should be helping seniors with disabilities. And then with that bill, when I read it, it was up to age 65. Like, there's so many Canadians with disabilities over 65, and they're not going to be included in that. And of course, there's now room that can be amended, that can be probably worked on as we develop going forward. Because just the basic framework right now, I mean, it's empty. It's an empty shell. As I always say with my famous, saying is the pot of spaghetti, right? You can throw the water in, but you didn't put the noodles in, Brent. Well, you just told me to make spaghetti. I just boiled the water. That's all you asked me to do. Fine, I'll throw the spaghetti in. What are you going to make with it? I don't know. You didn't tell me. We'll figure it out. And so what I'm telling people is, let's all think outside the box. Let's think of strategies, ideas, come together and put them together and hold the elected officials accountable. They're all representatives. A lot of them have great ideas. And if we kind of get all these ideas put together, we can make this a beautiful nation again, and just recognize everyone for their citizenship.
Yeah. I think it's important, as you're closing, it's important to point out too, from what you said, these aren't just people's ideas that they've come up with. Like, a lot of times you look things up, the work has been done. The scholarly approach, that academic approach, that scientific approach, that economic approach, whatever you want to call it, it's been studied and reported on responsibly. And there are reports that support all of these things, and recommendations, like I mentioned earlier about the Senate report with recommendations for how to improve the disability tax credit system. There's about food insecurity, guaranteed income. There's so many studies that have been done, even in other jurisdictions. That's the nice thing about the internet and social media. You don't just have to go to the memes and the really entertaining stuff. You can go and look up best practices and approaches that have been done. So the work has been done, and particularly I think about something like pharmacare that we talk about that would benefit everybody. If we included medicine in our healthcare system, that's been studied to death, and we know it would save our healthcare system money. It would save individuals money. It would save insurance. Like, we already know how it could work. We already understand. So you don't need any more information. Now it's political will. That's where we come in, that political will. How do you get an actual political actor at any level of government to take action? You have to embolden them, right? You've got to make them bold by sharing with them, like, this is a good thing. We want this.
Absolutely. And that's one thing that I'm really passionate about, is emphasizing about housing, even too, RGIs, and having that for people with disabilities. I think that would really help a lot, because it puts more money in the person's pocket. It puts less strain on the healthcare system, and it helps communities. It helps people broaden their horizons on opportunities of things that they can maybe do in their communities. It's endless. And I mean, people who live in market housing, we have such a shortage in the private sector of what's going on. There's financialization, right? We've been in a housing crisis, and a lot of housing under that the government's getting built through other providers under umbrella, under different provinces will call it different things, but it's government housing. And one of the things I had mentioned, Cheryl, to the previous minister who I had on from British Columbia, was I had presented the idea of RGI housing for people in market housing who are paying high market rent, so they don't pay more than 1/3 their income, and they can put the money back into the economy. And she thought that was a brilliant idea. She says, I love it when you think outside the box. And but I said, but it's not just for people in British Columbia. I want to see that across the board, across every single province in Canada. If people want to opt into that, like they want that, there should be no reason why people shouldn't be not having that, because CMHC states that nobody should be paying more than 30% of their income anyway.
And you see these new builds that say affordable housing, and it says
Right.
the rate for owning the place will be somewhere in the neighborhood of $25,000 to $3,000 a month, and it's like, you just said it was affordable. How is $3,000 a month affordable for most people, right?
Well, the same Vancouver right now for what is it, for a 1 bedroom, it's $3,000 a month now, or pretty close to it. It's pretty crazy. But anyway, I'll continue that topic on our next day.
Next month.
Next month.
Yes, something to look forward to on that. Would be a great
Rent your income. Let's go.
Yeah. So thank you so much, Cheryl.
Thank you for having me, guys. Keep up the good work.
And thank you for coming on today. And
Bye, Cheryl.
We'll continue on next month where we left off.
Okay. Stay strong,
Thank you.
everybody. Bye now.
Thank you.